can take over, and then what makes people support these megalomaniac things. And I think that's what this movie I'm watching, this series, is talking about, because that was the rise of Hitler and how it connected with the space program. And I'll finish it, but it's part 2, and I didn't read the book. But we need to deconstruct this and analyze this and figure out why do these things happen in our world, where we really should be, and I'll use a should, be further along. We should be in space. We should be in a Star Trekian reality. We should be trading, in space stations with extraterrestrials like they do in Deep Space Nine. But
we are.
We are, but the public program is we're just a bunch of slaves, economic slaves. There's 100,000 or 10,000 people living under bridges in Los Angeles, and our America's turning into a third world country. I mean, don't look at the visuals of Los Angeles. There's tent cities, and we used to complain 10, 15 years ago about other countries. Look at that, they have tent cities. Well, that's what we have in America. America's turned into a slum. And so back to you, Ken. I know you have some comments on it.
Yeah, let me jump in here.
People.
Yeah.
Yeah,
let me jump in. I want to throw a.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not a monkey wrench. I want to throw something in the thing here. That some of us, I'll give you my example, and hopefully you two can jump in, or some other people can come in if we have questions and answers. Of the 3 of us that were born to my family, the other 2 boys were more of olive-type skin and black hair and little waves and things. And then whenever I come along, I'm, blonde hair, hazel blue eyes, and a little different. Now, there's an event that took place when I was only 3 years old, and I had tonsillitis, and there was, back in those days they used chloroform as an anesthetic instead of what they use in operations nowadays. At any rate, they did that on me. The doctor finished. I was born with a cyst over my left eye, and at the age of 3, they decided it was time to remove that little cyst. Well, in the operation, my heart stopped beating. I stopped breathing. I turned blue. The doctor that performed the operation, I was told, he just shoved all of the operating tools and things and trays in the floor, grabbed me, and started giving mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, which he had just learned about 2 weeks before that event. And they used to call what they call a pull machine, because whenever you absolutely go zonk, your tongue sometimes falls back in your throat like you almost swallow your own tongue. Anyway, by the time they got the pull machine in there, I was sitting up crying as a little baby, 3 years old. When I was 5, was going in for another operation with the same doctor. He said I came the closest to staying dead with him than anybody had ever had. Now, the point I'm making is that the experiences that I've had and that I'm talking, that period of time while my heart wasn't beating and I was stopped, is a time of what I call a walk-in. And there have been things that have happened in my life that I've recovered that nobody in the whole families can even begin to think, well, how could you guys have done that? You weren't even born, or along those lines. So if there's anybody in the audience that themselves have found that they were what I call a walk-in, and I'm beginning to think that who I am today have been used or manipulated so that I would be at this right place at the right time to help bring full disclosure to the whole populations of what we're doing. So I am who I am, although try this on for size. Now, here I am, 77, and I probably have, don't know exactly what, 20-some-odd great-grandchildren, and they just add up real fast when you have very, busy grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Now, we'll put it that way, and love every one of them, and that's terrific. But in my case, coming forward and becoming, making it available and looking back at past lives, what point I was going to make, when I was born, getting ready to be born, my mother had 2 boys, and they had done the pendulum trip, where someone psychic would hold a pendulum above her abdomen and watch it. If it would go in a circle, it was going to be a little girl. If it was going back and forth, it would be a little boy, and So mother had tested that, and was definitely going to be her little girl that she wanted to have. And whenever I was born, the doctor says, "Oh my gosh, he's not a girl, he's a boy." So for about 9 months or less, a little less than that, my name was Patty Lou. Would you believe that? And I'm a long ways away from being Patty Lou, although I use that as a joke sometimes. And this is the part where you have the walk-in. Perhaps Patty Lou was the name of the entity that hadn't quite finished all the training and learning that they wanted to do by following this timeline, and they chose to step in whenever I had passed for those few moments and sections. It's interesting. Other people I've talked to, some of them have had similar experiences, and it doesn't have to have happened in this lifetime that we're counting now, the past 100 years or what have you, but could have been or even on another planet, what have you. So that's where my background comes out. Look out, Patty Lou may have been involved with a program that you had in another time. How's that, Greg? You didn't know that, did you, you guys?
I didn't
and
know
don't
you were
call me
Lou.
Patty Lou. Don't call me Patty Lou. Okay.
Well, we've had a lot of clients where the parents were disappointed because you weren't born the sex that they were imagining, and we're not going to go into that here, but that sometimes really adversely affects someone because they come in with a deficit because they disappointed their parents by not being the proper sex. So it's really your parents' crap, right? And they shouldn't be imposing that on the child. But nonetheless, it gets imposed on the child sometimes. So I feel sorry for you. I don't know what sex they wanted me to be because they had one of each, so I guess they were okay. But that usually happens when they have, two of the same sex. They usually want the opposite sex, and so you get strapped with that responsibility. But you are who you are. Yeah.
The next time Sasha does a regression on him, you'll have to have him check out and find out just exactly who Patty Lou was and what what timeline in the ancient history or current that Patty Lou did exist in, and then we can put that in one of my books too. Oh, wouldn't that make a great story?
Yeah.
Our fleet commander was Patty Lou. How's that grab you?
Patty Lou. Yeah, that sounds good. Now, from my perspective, they all simultaneously exist because we simultaneously have a. So this is a subpersonality of yours. She never left you. She's there. She's in there. She's a subpersonality. But we all have our inner masculine and feminine, and we allow it to come. The inner feminine usually doesn't come forth unless she feels really safe, So anyway, it's very psychology is very complicated. It's a very interesting field, but I won't go into that now because that's not what this show is about. But are they walk-ins or are they subpersonalities, or is there a difference? And the Life Between Lives Institute, Dr. Michael Newton Institute, says that sometimes the fractals of the group soul, the oversoul, can be in many bodies, even on the earth simultaneously. So you could theoretically meet yourself, make love with yourself. Can we have simultaneous souls in one body? It's interesting.
Now I am confused.
Now you're confused. Anyway.
Now I am. I'm going to beat myself.
0 point energy.
And do what am I going to do to myself?
What am I doing to
myself?
I'm going to get a lot of contacts from this session we're having with everybody. If they contact me, or anyone sends an email to me and they want to talk to Patty Lou, I'm going to be on a tough road to hoe.
Road to hoe.
That's okay.
By the way, I've never told that. That's never been told public before, and it was just it seemed to be relevant to the conversation. So,
we've got to know who the people are that are going to be running this, and we've got the civilian and the military. But Janet, just so you know, people have been coming and going for billions of years, and now science, including Graham Hancock's written a book about that, the old way, and why now archaeology would, if anybody brought up the fact that we're just returning here to amuse ourselves. It was that's part of our Portal to the Stargate series, folks, of wormhole travel, because we're just now getting into wormhole travel. And Sonny, what was his name, Ken? I asked you if you looked at him. Harold, was his name Harold? Gosh, I sent you an article. I put it in Ericot.
That's the one I haven't read yet. I just finished the other one, but I'll get to it.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Okay, well, all right. Well, anyway, we are getting into warp drive with Janet and Star Trek. There's a psychological aspect of all that we do on the planet, and what's declassified is the Ministry of Defense. But they're proving that medically that, well, at least Russia, I don't know about America, but that the magnetic fields created by plasma during a thunderstorm can produce hallucinations, so to speak. So the close proximity of plasma-related fields, and even it can happen. So we're looking at all that happens when you become synchronized into all your realities,
Why does that create hallucinations? Do they have a scientific explanation as to why exposure to a plasma field can create hallucinations?
Well, we're looking at that. That's part of this new space program, because psychologically we have to, just like Ken's been through all those tests, and then come to find out motion sickness or flying around, there's matter and antimatter, and the cooling of, we're looking at gravity and how to get off without the fuel, the type so archaic. We know we've come and gone from this planet over and over again, and in other places in space and Mars, and we're if they're underground, fine. We're going to go back and visit there in 2020. So, tonight we're all about getting organized, knowing who we are as individuals, but there is a psychological warfare going on, universally speaking. And so those that still like to play, let's just think of it like if we're going back in Star Wars, there's Star Trekkers and there's Star Warriors. And we have some of those groups in social media. Some still want to fight and think they're out there, and others aren't. And so I work with a group that feels like they're highly civilized and don't need emotions or ways there to impact consciousness, but they realized that they couldn't without the emotions and affecting the nervous system with the mind. They observed over thousands of years it worked, or millions of years. I don't know if it's billions or trillions, because who's counting space and time, right? Because time is linear on this planet anyway, even though we're going in a circle. But as we go around on the planet, we're rebuilding ourselves constantly, and we know that. So the more we know, the more we realize we're not just matter and antimatter. So plasma is a big fourth force or constant in the universe. And so the sun revolves around all this in the solar system that goes out, and we're working with the galaxies, and I work universally, a part of me anyway, and everybody has a space travel story, a time travel, because you're born, you live, and you die. And so you have a beginning, a middle, and an end according to your reality, at least here. So we have a new enlightenment program, and that enlightenment program we call, in some circles, the ascension age was 12-21-12, but it's 11-11, allegedly, for immortal souls in the ascension master beings. So we have our master race of supreme beings, and we still call this the miracle of life here. But in space travel, on the game we're playing, is we're starting a new space force on the planet, at least for America. So we'll still have land, sea, and air, or joint sea, air, mariner, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard 5. But we're going to have people, and it's going to take a little bit from each group, but we need to. The reason is, folks, that we have people here on, at least those that in the know. You've seen planes, trains, and automobiles, but you know that it only goes so much to a level of space, like Ken or me, or you go up in an airplane, that's about it, okay? But then we have those leaving the atmosphere, going around the moon and Mars, things like that. So we're working on that conscious information getting out to everybody that travels. And those in space that already do it, most of them do it with consciousness. And they do it, what's faster than the speed of light? Your thought, your consciousness. So they're going to prove this outcome, and they're using it right now at a level of philosophy and physics joined together. So I don't know what we want to call that, but you may want to think about it, because it's important. We have constant feedback loop, and we reshape ourselves every day in our future. And some people call it a torus. Well, the universe has a torus, just like the planet. And so we're working on all these together now. and understanding the critical mass mind is more. So a lot of people are saying what we as psychics used to call metaphysically the Akashic field, the